Now in the studio we are joined by Gerard Quinn. Thank you for joining us, Gerard, and his title is he's Senior Manager of Ford Performance Ford Europe, and been with Ford for a long tenure, over 30 years. So first of all, the question is that we had this lovely PR moment last week where Sebastian and Alvin came to the factory where the Road Fiesta is built. How was that received by everyone that works there?
Well, it was very exciting moment and quite an emotional moment, bringing the Fiesta back to Ford and where the car is actually built. The Fiesta is built in Cologne, and it was exciting to bring it to see the employees and the people who worked on the car. And for us as a company, it's very important to have our employees involved with what we're doing in motorsport, and particularly rally. And this is a car that's obviously for sale to the general public, and it's exciting to see it in its full-blown WRC format, and the conversion job that our partners eSports have done on that car.
I mean, as you say, there's huge budget spent. It is great that the drivers can spend some time, you can organise this and things like that. Did they enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, what gets you really is the fact that there's so much enthusiasm for, not just for the World Rally car, but for Fiesta. So we had enthusiasts there, and a lot of Fiesta enthusiasts turned up on the day with various types of cars, show cars and some fancy paint jobs and customizations, right down to race cars. So on the day, even though the plant was on shutdown, there was a huge turnout, and of course the icing on the cake was to get the car into the assembly area where it would have come off the line before it went to eSports for conversion.
That's it. The body shells we are seeing would have been built in this factory.
Absolutely, yeah. We supply the body shells direct from the plant in Cologne to eSports.
That is great. And how important is that for the drivers as well, to get that sense of where it's all originating from and see the people that are working on it?
Well, particularly for the drivers, I think it creates that sense of relevance that it is an actual car that started life in a manufacturing facility, and that it went on subsequently to be converted with all of the safety features that are required under the regulations. But you know, to get somebody like Sebastian and Elfin there to meet the employees, I think it was exciting for them as it was for the employees to be able to meet people who are actually involved in the whole process and be part of the wider Ford family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got a rally on. Unfortunately, your man's not leading quite yet, but what do you make of it?
He's not leading, but he's in watching from the wings. I think he's having a good morning. I think the last stage he enjoyed it. He seems to be settling in nicely now. He's 12 seconds off the lead, so I think he's in a very strong position. So all is not lost, and there's a long way to go yet.
Yeah, and Julian, I'm going to big you up here. Yesterday, Julian was like, no, you know, Tanak may be having an incredible day as he did yesterday, but Sebastian, tyre management, especially the second run of Panzerplatte, and Jules was like, keep watching that, it's not all over yet.
Yeah, I think you've got the experienced head and the young gun out there battling it out now, so it'll be interesting to see who's going to give in first. And you know, looking at Oit in the car this morning, he looks a little bit rattled, so we'll just have to wait and see how it goes into the afternoon and then on to tomorrow.
Well, that's it. I mean, you know him from last year. He won here last year in one of your cars. You've noticed that. We picked up on that. He just doesn't seem as relaxed today as yesterday.
Yeah, I think if you look at Oit yesterday, he was very relaxed and he was quite jovial, and you know, today he came out slightly a bit more tetchy, I would say. Certainly in his stage end interviews, you know, he was commenting that some of the bails were not as they should be placed by the organisers. So yeah, it's interesting to see. But you know, Oit has come on. He's made a huge step forward even from where he was last year, and I first met Oit many years ago when he was working at eSports in the Super 2000 era and so on, and you know, he's a very mature guy now, and he knows how to win, he knows how to control a rally, but you know, he's got a very experienced guy looking over his shoulder, so I think yeah, there's pressure on him right now, I would say.
You obviously spread yourself across a lot of forms of motorsport. Ford are involved, but what is it like working with Sebastian Ogier?
Well, take last Monday, for example, when we were at the plant in Cologne, working with both Sebastian and Elfyn. What really comes across is that even though he's 5 times world champion, he's very amenable, he's very approachable, he's just a normal guy. He works well with the team, he works well with the other drivers, and I think he's always willing to impart some of his knowledge and his experience, and he's quite matter of fact. So he's a genuinely nice guy, and he's incredibly astute when it comes to motorsport. So I think we saw him recently driving in DTM, and I think he's not world champion 5 times by accident, and it's a pleasure for us as a team to be able to work with him. And
how much do you hold a couple of the purse strings and have to go, no, we want obviously Sebastian and his teammates to do as well as we can, but this is where we're putting in our investment, this is where we're drawing the line, does that fall under some of your responsibility?
Yes, it does, and it's a very important part of the team to have the right driver. That we know we've got a hugely competitive car in the Fiesta, and to have a driver of the caliber of Elfyn, Teemu and Seb is really important for us. So we look at the performance of the return we get on our investment, and where that investment takes us with the likes of Seb and so on. And last year we had a terrific year. This year it's probably a little bit tougher, but it's always something that we constantly monitor, and obviously budget is not something we discuss, but keeping the likes of Sebastian in the team is hugely important for us.
Well, he's led us on to it. I was going to let him off, but we can't. Keep him in the team. Silly season is in full flow. What do you have to do to keep him in the team?
I think that there's always the question of money, but setting that aside, if you look at the way that Seb has come from a full factory corporate environment with his last team coming to our team, which is more family orientated, I think that's important for him as well, and we've allowed him to do what he needs to do because he's now a dad and he's got to spend more time with his family and so on. So that's a huge consideration as well. So I would like to think that we're in a strong position to retain his services for the coming season. There's no contracts, no talks, nothing yet. We've got a championship to win, so we'll just have to see how it plays out over the next few months.
He told me on Wednesday he's been the worst at deciding at the minute because there's been so much to do. October, November, December's. He said, I want it finalised by September. But I think it's... Look at the face on him.
It's not long.
Yeah, I think, we've got a busy few weeks coming up now with a rally in Turkey, a new event in the calendar. So, we'll just have to wait and see how it goes.
Pause. I can see.
I'll leave him alone now.
Well, let's talk about Teemu Sunninen, because Jules in particular, you've been so impressed with him this rally, because to come on to this surface in this WRC car and to perform like he has, and to have that sense of maturity that we've seen from him develop over each rally.
Yeah, I think the one thing you'll notice with Teemu when you talk to him is he's a very mature individual. He doesn't get flustered very easily. And as you say, he adapts to the surfaces he's driving on very quickly as well. I think he's, his maturity and the way he works with his co-driver and the effort that they put in preparation for the events really pays off, and it shows in the consistency in how they perform. So I think that's the key thing for them, really, in the consistency they're building up, but also the learning that they're putting in now that will benefit them in 1 or 2 years' time in the championship.
Elvin's had a great day yesterday, particularly in the afternoon. He struggled a bit this morning. What do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't quite know, but he's in seventh position right now. I think he's about 53 seconds off the lead. But Elfyn is very good on tarmac as well, and he's shown last year, what a solid individual he is in terms of being in the team and how he supports Sebastian. We saw in the sporting spirit that he showed in Finland when the team had to make decisions in terms of how we protected the manufacturer's title. So I think he's maybe a little bit off the mark this morning, but he's still doing a solid job. And in terms of the manufacturers' championships, it's really close between you and Toyota, just 1 point separating you. Toyota obviously getting the full max
win points last time out. How much is that competitive spirits amongst the team sort of really embraced and pushed, and you have the words where you got to Alvin and go, come on, we need you to get some points as well from manufacturers?
It's never far away. I mean, that's, I guess, the most enjoyable part of being in the sport is that competitiveness between the drivers, but also against the manufacturers and the teams working for those manufacturers. And we're I guess coming under a bit of pressure right now. And I would hope that when we go away from here on Sunday night, that we're still ahead of the Toyota team when we look at the point scoring. So we'll just have to wait and see how it pans out.
The World Championship at the moment is incredibly competitive, isn't it? It is a good time to be involved in the World Rally Championship.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen a season as competitive as last year and this year in WRC for quite a long time, and I've been following WRC for many decades now. And if you look at a typical event, you couldn't really predict from one day to the next who is going to be the winner. I mean, this afternoon, who knows what's going to happen, and it's so competitive out there with the gaps that are running between the top 7 or 8 drivers now in comparison to what it was 3 or 4 years ago, where there was one guy in the lead all of the time and it was a lot more predictable. It's less predictable now, which makes it more exciting for the fans, obviously, but makes it more nerve-wracking for the teams.
Well, what makes it more nerve-wracking as well is the championship's upped its game. Also, WRC Promoters upped its game with the All Live. I mean, what do you make of that? You can watch it now, everything.
Yeah, All Live is a huge step forward. If you look at the way that content is consumed these days by fans and people who are just beginning maybe to have an interest in WRC, it's very important to have the sport accessible and to have it on a digital platform and to have it live all the time from the service park. It's certainly an attractive proposition for us as a manufacturer, and in actual fact we offer WRC Live to our employees that have a Ford-owned device. So you're probably being watched now by several hundred Ford employees around the world. So it's a very good asset to have for the sport, and it puts it in a unique position that maybe something like Formula One doesn't have right now.
Gerard, thank you so much. And he's just sold it. But if you haven't been sold yet, this is why you should have All Live. After this, we have got Stage 6, the Rosenpasser, coming up.
Good morning, Rally fans. How are you? Welcome to All Live. This is Sebastian Ogier.
All Live is the best thing to happen to this sport since Colin McRae passed his driving test.
We've had live TV before with rallying, and you have it maybe once a weekend or twice a weekend, but All Live's every single stage, 30 hours of footage on a rally weekend. You just can't get enough of it as a rally fan.
Now you can watch that stage and you can watch as the drama unfolds. We get into the service park, we get behind the scenes, we get interviews that you may not get. This is a new generation of watching rally as it happens. We live and breathe every moment.
WRC Plus, All Live.